Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day, and welcome back. I hope your weekend was incredible. And you're returning here on Monday, restored, rejuvenated, and ready to go. We've got business to attend to today. 3 stories coming up. Of course, a big one that we've been following all day. The CEO Slayer allegedly has been detained, and we've been following this one for a bit, trying to keep tabs on the photos that are being released with various backpacks and pockets and jackets on. And now they found the guy apparently with a gun in his pocket and a manifesto in his backpack at McDonald's. Amazing how that works. And I've been spending a lot of time today watching this all unfold and noticing how a bunch of people in the NYPD and in federal law enforcement are all patting themselves on the back. Like, we did a great job finding this guy. And it's like, you didn't find the guy. The woman working at McDonald's did. Anyways, so we'll go through it. Bunch of stuff, bunch of news reports on this. Who is this guy? And apparently we found his X account, and he has some interesting posts on there that we'll break down. He may have had a breakdown himself some time ago. Some people are digging into his post, and he just like disappeared and then suddenly came back. So we'll go through that and get the latest from all of the sources that are out and about. Then we'll talk about Daniel Penny. Whew, big acquittal on that one. So congratulations to Daniel Penny and his defense team and his family and everybody else who is going through this completely unnecessary trial that never should have been brought or prosecuted. And peace to Jordan Neely and his family for the end result here. We never want anybody to pass away unnecessarily or before their time, but there are situations where somebody needs to act in self-defense, and that person should not be prosecuted for that. So tragedies happen. The good news is an acquittal for Daniel Penny. We're excited about that. We've got some reaction here. The NAACP is calling this racist, as you can expect. And Daniel Penny was out celebrating with his criminal defense team. So we'll go through that and see what the latest is there before we turn our attention over to what's happening with the FBI, because President Trump had a long interview with Kristen Welker. You remember her. And during that conversation, Trump said, Christopher Wray, you're on your way out. Now, he didn't say explicitly you're fired, but basically, because Kash Patel is going to be coming in. I've got 2 clips from the president himself, and then we'll look at a letter from Chuck Grassley, the senator from the great state of Iowa, who sent a letter to Christopher Wray today, fresh out of the oven, and he's not happy with him. Nor should he be, because Christopher Wray is a dishonorable person. And we've got a bunch of stuff to get to today, my friends. Really glad that you're here. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for becoming a membo. If you're looking for some extra content, we do member streams in the morning. We had a great stream this morning talking about more CEO Slayer stuff and a bunch of other stuff that we don't get to here. We have a great community of membos on YouTube and on Locals, and it's a lot of fun. So we'd love to have you come join us. We kind of let our hair down a little bit, you know, mix and mingle. And it's a fun time. So check out the links in the description below. Join on YouTube. Join on Locals. We'd love to have you. And it's a great way to support our work here. And I love you. So just think about that. All right. So let's get into the business on the day. So here is what we've got. The CEO Slayer identified. According to CBS News and a bunch of other agencies, the NYPD has rounded up a suspect or a person of interest. And this is allegedly the person who shot the United Healthcare CEO in New York City. And so a bunch of clips here from what they have brought forward to us and reaction from his own X account, because people have found his X account. This is the person, Luigi Mangione, and he just got a bunch of followers. Okay, when I looked at this earlier today, there was like 16,000 followers, maybe. So everybody is following this account as of now, and people are going through his X account and trying to figure out what's going on. Now, you'll notice that he has pinned on his profile a post from Tim Urban. Tim Urban wrote Wait But Why, or runs the blog called Wait But Why. And I don't know if the future is going to be utopia or dystopia, is what Tim Urban said, but it's unlikely to be anything in between. And then he's reposting that. And so this has been interesting because Tim Urban is like, I disavow. That's not what the book was about at all. And he came out and posted in response to that. But here's the X account. The alleged CEO shooter was reboosting Andrew Huberman's podcast, which is a great podcast. And just because he likes the podcast doesn't mean that Andrew Huberman is an assassin or an assassin lover or something like that. Maybe he's just interested in mental health and brain plasticity. He's listening because he's got a mental health situation going on. Maybe that's one thing. Also reposted this from Peter Thiel on many great startups being run by people suffering from a mild form of Asperger's. So maybe this guy's thinking, I identify with Peter Thiel. Reposting from Jonathan Haidt on the anxious generation. Jonathan Haidt, I think is how you say his name. The psychiatrist, psychologist. I think I've read some books from him. The Happiness Hypothesis, was that him? And same thing here. It's amazing how caffeine really is the only drug that has achieved this level of social acceptance. Imagine someone saying, the first line of cocaine in the morning is just one of my favorite things in life. First coffee in the morning is one of my favorite things about life. It's like my first hit of meth, So he's into this space. Now, all of that has been parsed through with a fine-tooth comb, courtesy of the interwebs. And somebody who is doing some sleuthing found something else interesting on this. And I'm pretty sure I have this pulled up somewhere here in a minute, which I know I had that pulled up. What did I do with that? I think it might be in my bookmarks. Hang on. Yes, here it is. Seems like the shooter had some sort of a mental breakdown about 6 months ago and then totally vanished. This came over Armand Domalewski, found this one. And this is from his X account. Somebody was sending this back July 9th, 2024. Someone sends him this message. Hey, Pet Mangione. Hey, man, I need you to call me. I don't know if you are okay or just in super isolated place and have no service, but I haven't heard from you in months. You made commitments to me for my wedding, and if you can't honor them, I need to know so I can plan accordingly. Like, bro, where are you? Someone else said, thinking of you in prayers every day in your name, know that you are missed and loved. Okay, someone sent that 11:26. So the guy's just like off the radar, gone. Then, hey, are you okay? In October, 11:26, so that's just not long ago, this year, 11:20, a week and a half ago, says, hey, are you okay? This is Halloween. Hey, are you okay? Nobody has heard from you in months. And apparently your family is looking for you. Nobody can find you. Pep, somebody flags him, 11:27, are you there? Where'd he go? Not good. So I don't know what happened there, if the psychedelics took a hold of him and his ayahuasca journey caused a problem for him, or if maybe the CIA MK Ultra drugs took effect and captured him. So we don't really know. But something happened, theoretically, according to this capture from Armand. And there's more reaction. So here is what the mainstream media was reporting on this, saying that he had a manifesto. They found him at McDonald's. He had the gun in his pocket, and some little old lady behind the stand at the McDonald's who was serving him food recognized his eyebrows through, because we had that photo of him and maybe that pull down mask. She's like, oh, bingo. Spitting image. There's another image. And they just identified this dude. Go figure. It happened very quickly, very easily. We've got like thousands of different agents scouring AI tools to facial recognize this guy. Turns out it's just some nice McDonald's cashier who identifies him. Here is what the report said.
This afternoon, although this manhunt started in New York City, it's now hundreds of miles away where they believe they have the person they're now calling a suspect in for questioning. Why do they think it's a suspect? Well, they say it's quite simple. He matches the description. So somebody at McDonald's, John and Sandra in Altoona, picked up the phone, called it in and said, hey, I think we see this person you're looking for in that ongoing manhunt for the murder suspect of that CEO in Midtown Manhattan. So the cops say, we'll come over, we'll check it out. They thought he matched the description. They go and question question him. What does he have in his pocket? Well, I'm told by sources he had a weapon in his pocket, and they believe it's the same gun that was used in this investigation into who exactly they were looking for, into the killing of this CEO. So they've got the gun possibly in Altoona, Pennsylvania. They were doing everything they could to find more evidence in Central Park because they found what they believe was the shooter's backpack. So he tried to hide it in the woods, I'm told. So he leaves in Midtown on an electric bike, comes to Central Park, where I am now, stashes that bag, and what's inside? Well, a men's jacket and some Monopoly money. The question still, although they might have a person of interest or now a suspect in for questioning, is what was this all about? What was the motive? That is the question here in this case. I'm told it could be linked to Brian Thompson's job. He had a huge job as the CEO of United Healthcare. They believe it could have been either a disgruntled employee or somebody who was just upset about the entire insurance industry and insurance system, blaming him. But those words that were written on the shell casings, you guys, deny, defend, and depose, could also be, I'm told by sources, something to just kind of throw police off of his trail. But they did a really good job here. You got to give the NYPD credit. They worked with federal, state, and local partners all over the place to try and find this person. They kept putting out his picture. Let's pull it up one more time on your screen. We kept showing it. The one, he's smiling, okay? That's at a New York City hostel. Then they have a picture.
So this has been happening all day. I don't know if you've noticed this or had the same critique. Maybe I'm just agitated. I don't know, for some reason. But I was watching this today, listening to this in the background, and like, gosh, New York PD did such a heroic job. You guys are so amazing. We use drones, we use technology, and we also posted pictures on the internet. So we found him. What are you talking about? You mean everybody else reposted your images? And by the way, the images you were posting were causing people to be skeptical about the images. Is that why you tried to make it so difficult for us to see clear images of this person? And then finally, we started to get them released. Like, you could have told us when you released the photos of the second batch of photos, what date and time those came from, so that people could say, well, is that the same jacket he was wearing or the same backpack? Maybe he changed his backpack. Maybe he changed his jacket. Maybe the pockets just appeared because it was a different jacket, because it was a different date and time of the photo. It wasn't the same day of the shooting. Right? So they're constantly like trickling out this information in the most confusing, obtuse, obstructionary way, and then all of a sudden some little old lady calls and says, I think this might be the guy, and boom, they capture him. Like, we got him. We just, thank God, we need more money for drones so we can find him harder next time. Oh my gosh.
Picture of him leaving Central Park in a taxi cab, looks directly at a camera that's inside of that taxi. The driver hands it over as evidence in this case. So those two pictures that we kept showing, well, I'm told that is why this person, the McDonald's, who is possibly a McDonald's employee, recognized him. And in those pictures, even though the one at the hostel is more clear than this one, I mean, you can see his eyes and you can see his eyebrows, you can see some of his features. So that's what I guess they recognized. They said, hey, I think that looks like the man in that picture. So
shout out to the McDonald's
sometimes
worker.
It just takes one last tip, and that's exactly what happened in this case. They've got this guy in custody and for questioning at a local police department in Altoona, Pennsylvania. We've got our crew going out there now to get the latest on what's going on the ground, but a wild story. So we're going to have to see exactly what happens. Send it back to you.
So if they have somebody in custody in Altoona and they believe that they've got a weapon in their possession, what exactly are divers looking for in the pond there?
Well, so it's interesting, John. They were still searching just to see, what else he could have thrown in there. But I don't think they knew, because it happened so quickly. This morning when we were live on America's Newsroom, they had those two divers in there scouring. Well, they got called out. We didn't know if it was for a break or for some type of break in the case. We're still going to wait to find out. But they pulled the divers out now. So we're going to have to see if they're going to still continue that search. But we'll have to see what happens. But
yeah, maybe look for the actual weapon. Who knows? All right. So this is the latest. This is the person. A photograph of him. Carol Markowitz also said his name is Luigi Mangione, 26 years old. He's from Maryland. Bunch of news agencies aggregating the details. You see, his name is Luigi Mangione. 26, was arrested in Pennsylvania on Monday. Person of interest. Why it matters is he's obviously the person allegedly who shot that CEO. Mangione was identified at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He had fake IDs, a firearm, and a device to muffle gunshots. All perfect. That was according to New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, which must be a common name in New York. He was recognized by an employee at the fast food restaurant who called local police, she said. Responding law enforcement officers questioned Mangione, and he was acting suspiciously. The fraudulent New Jersey ID he carried was consistent with the one used to check into a New York City hostel before the shooting, said Tish. Not that Tish. The Altoona Police Department confirmed in a press release that he was arrested on charges unrelated to the shooting, possession of a firearm in violation of their laws. So he's expected to face gun charges in New York and Pennsylvania. Officers also recovered a handwritten document that they said, quote, speaks to both his motivations and his mindset. That document was 3 pages long. Kenny told reporters that in his agency's correspondence with the police, he does not believe there are any specific threats, although he does have ill will towards corporate America. He was raised in Maryland. Last known address was Honolulu. Not believed to have any prior arrests. Believe he attended college in Pennsylvania. Some people say the Ivy Leagues. Thompson was shot in the back on December 4th. Shooting had the bullets inscribed with deny, defend, depose. And his killing is reopening a national debate. Apparently some people think it's okay to just shoot and kill people in the middle of the street. Now, they have had this guy detained. Fox News reporting largely the same. Not much new from the various agencies. But Luigi Mangione was arrested, age 26. At this time, she said, he is believed to be our person of interest. All right, so let's just go to some of these clips. You see, here is what they said today out to the media.
Document that he was found in possession with. Can you go a little bit more in depth about those motivations that you mentioned? Was that CEO specifically named in that document? Was there anything more about him wanting to go after others? And also in that document, was there any indication that explains us how the level of detail that he went into killing him? Like, is there anything?
Like I said, that document is currently in the possession of the Altoona Police Department as part of their investigation. But just from briefly speaking with them, we don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document. But it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
Yeah, all right. So this was a political act. Here's another clip.
By an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset.
All right, so we'll look forward to seeing if this guy's talking or not, if he's speaking out. Has he invoked? Are they going to charge him with additional crimes, or is this what we've got? You can see Colin Rugg did some aggregation for us. He said he's a former Ivy League student and activist. People described him as a tech whiz, former valedictorian of his class, anti-capitalist who shared quotes online from Unabomber Ted Kaczynski. He had some quotes that we'll take a look at and wrote about. Mangione studied at the University of Pennsylvania. He was valedictorian in 2016, graduating class at Gilman School in Baltimore, and they found his X profile, and they got some photographs of him there. He engaged with a lot of accounts on X, including some right-wing figures. He despised the legacy media. He didn't send out any posts regarding the election, and he frequently engaged with @Wait But Why, which is Tim Urban. And there was also other reports from Libs of TikTok that Libs of TikTok said that Taylor Lorenz, remember her, the woman from the Washington Post, who is no longer, I think, with the Washington Post, said that this was actually following him. And that's curious because she was, I think, in favor or sympathetic with the shooter's actions. So it's interesting that she's following him. And we'll learn more on that. But here was one of the posts that he wrote. So he actually wrote a comment on Ted Kaczynski's writings. And he says he rated a book 4 stars. Ted Kaczynski's Industrial Society and Its Future. He gave it a 4-star rating. Said, when all other forms of communication fail, violence is necessary to survive. You may not like his methods, but to see things from his perspective, it's not terrorism, it's war and revolution. Fossil fuel companies actively suppress anything that stands in their way. They have zero qualms about burning the planet, so why should we have any qualms about burning them down to survive, right? Pretty violent language that, of course, we reject. We want peace and love and harmony. We're animals just like everything else on this planet, except we've forgotten the law of the jungle and bend over for our overlords. Violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators. All right, so that's his perspective, and maybe that is the motive that led him to shoot a CEO in the back. But that is a curious post. Of course, we'll keep our eye on it as it stands. He's not been charged with anything related to this offense, probably just a weapons possession charge. We'll see what the indictment or the criminal complaint says against him, and we'll be here continuing to cover it. But he's been picked up. Will they put a nice bow on this? We'll see. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we wait for the story to develop. All right, now let's turn our attention to a big win on the day, because we got Daniel Penny and a nice acquittal. So let's recap what happened in another part of New York. Daniel Penny acquitted. This was day 5 of jury deliberations, a pretty short day inside the courtroom because the jury came back with their not guilty verdict very quickly. And on Friday, we were wondering what this judge was doing because the jury came back and they were hung as to count 1. They couldn't decide what to do on that. The judge lectured them, gave them the Allen charge, sent them back in twice, I believe, and said, go look at this again, convict him again. Then when they couldn't come out on count 1, the government dismissed that charge. And because we were already in the middle of the trial, the jury had been impaneled already. Jeopardy's attached to that. That charge is not coming back. So then the jury came back and the judge split this and said, let me take a chance. Let me see if the jury will go back and convict him on count 2. It was an insane statement to hear from a judge gambling with somebody's presumption of innocence in the middle of a criminal case. And fortunately, the jury must have heard what this judge was trying to do and been so disgusted that they came back and found him acquitted, not guilty on all counts, on all the second count. So all counts are now gone. And they did it quickly and unanimously. So here's what happened in court today. Of course, Inner City Press reports from New York. Please give him a follow and thank him for doing this work so that we can review these excerpts together from inside the courtroom in New York, where there are no videos and there are no audio live stream publications happening. Here's what he reported. All right, now it's Daniel Penny, day 5 jury deliberations. Only count 2 remains after count 1 was dismissed. Inner City Press wrote a whole book on this. You can get your copy on Amazon. I recommend it. Says here's what's happening. 9:39 in the morning. Judge Maxwell Riley enters the courtroom, stage left. Not yet in a black robe, carrying a tall paper cup, presumably coffee. Court officer, morning, Judge. Judge waves like this. Exit stage right. Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee's reporting. He's looking around this empty courtroom saying, interesting interaction. Meanwhile, protesters are chanting down the street, justice, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace, whatever. Time keeps ticking away, clock counting down. 10:03 a.m. Judge Wiley comes back. Now he's in a black robe. Come to order. Count. All rise. Your judge is here. Counsel, have a seat, says the judge. Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning. Prosecutor Daphna Yoran is standing in the gallery, looks up and says, oh, okay. She walks forward now to the prosecution table because the judge just burst in there. Daniel Penny and his lawyers are not even in there yet. Somebody goes and grabs them and they walk into the courtroom. Judge says, all right, good morning. Now that we've got all the parties here, I've received a communication since the last time we were in session. On Friday, as you know, I added an instruction to the jury after saying to consider count 2. Now, I've thought more about what I've done here. The court concluded it would be lawful. Meanwhile, the defense said it wants more instructions. Daniel Penny's lawyer, Daniel, he says, Your Honor, well, we've thought a lot about it too, by the way, and we're moving for a mistrial. There's no way you should have given them a second crack at this and called it a chance opportunity, whatever. So we are not going along with whatever you're doing here. We object. We add that the court never ascertained if they were even hung on justification, which, remember, we've talked about how the burden shifts, right? Daniel Penny basically says, yeah, I choked him, but I was justified in doing it. So I cannot be criminally liable for this. And then once he proves that, then the burden shifts over to them to prove that he was not, in fact, justified. And so we're having this argument because we talk about the burden of proof. Normally in criminal cases, or in many criminal cases, we don't have affirmative defenses where you say, yeah, I did the thing, like I did that, but I'm allowed to do that because I'm justified of self-defense and you can't be prosecuted for that. So the burden shift back to them. And he's saying, well, we don't even know what their hang up was. Like we never got into it. Was it justification that was the problem? Or was it something other than justification? Though it can be inferred. Well, I don't really care. I deny your motion for a mistrial either way. The jurors can continue their deliberations, and I think it's lawful. You don't. That's fine. You're overruled. Whenever they're ready for us, we're ready. All right. Anything else? Nothing. Jury enters. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hope you had a nice weekend. I wanted to tell you before we begin that the court has no role at all in your deliberations. It would be improper if I were to bring you in here and put pressure on you one way or another, and we're not going to do that. So with all that said, it's now time for you to continue your deliberations today. Any questions? No. Jury exits. Make sure you support Matthew Russell Lee. Now, some time goes by. We're back. It's 10:27 in the morning. Daniel Penny and his lawyers, they've come back up to the defense table. This time, before the prosecutor, Daphna, returns. Judge Wiley's not on the bench. Prosecutor Uran comes in. Now the judge comes in. Everybody stands up. All rise. And we're down. Come to order. The judge says, I understand we're here. The defense brought us here. Does the defense want to go on the record? Yes, we do, Your Honor. Thank you for recalling this case. When we retired to the anteroom, there are audible chants that are happening right now. We can hear it outside. They're screaming about no justice, no peace. They're saying Daniel Penny must be convicted. This is totally inappropriate. There are jurors in there that are deliberating right now. Now, I would like these videos from my cell phone. I recorded it. You can hear it clearly from my cell phone to be made part of the record. What are they saying out there? Well, the chants are, Your Honor, it says Daniel Penny, Subway Strangler. Danny Penny, Subway Strangler. If we don't get no justice, they don't get no peace. Over and over and over. Which we take as a threat against the jurors because that's exactly what it is. The press conference outside the court on Friday said the same thing. This is a circus-like environment, Your Honor. This is not okay at all. Prosecutor says, I haven't heard anything, Your Honor. The only thing I've heard is justice for Jordan Neely. That's what I hear. Not threats. And the man with the bullpen is gone now. There are numerous threats from the other side during this trial as well. If you view the press conference, look at the threats about if Mr. Penny is found guilty, what they're going to do, Your Honor. Well, that's true, Judge says. Well, I saw a pro-Penny bullpen this morning, too. So don't your people have protesters out there? Yes, all right. But it's true that the anti-Penny chanting went on longer today than usual into jury deliberations. And so put your video in on a flash drive, okay? Put it in. Give me the cell phone video. But Miss Uran is right. There has been unfair shade thrown on the DA Bragg and this prosecutor. Right? Give me a break. Now, I deny the motion for a mistrial. Now, if they ask, I could try to find a jury room where they couldn't hear it, but I'm not sure I could find one. Okay, I could bring them out now and ask them. Well, it's moot, Your Honor. If it starts again, it's moot. You know, if it starts again, it does. The chanting resumes, says Intercity Press. And then says, the ADA has some control over the protesters, Your Honor. This is the defense team. They can shut them up. They're the government prosecutors. They can just go enforce the law. Just send some cops out here to clean it up. Stop that, Mr. Kenneth, says the judge. I've already addressed this. They have free speech rights, and they're allowed to protest out there if they want to. Now, Your Honor, he brought up the press conference. Your Honor, says the defense, it was a press conference by the lawyers representing Mr. Neely. Let me finish this before you cut me off. Okay, defense, do you want me to bring the jurors in and ask them if they want to move rooms? Is that what you want? Well, let me check with Mr. Reiser. All right. And then they talk about it. Because unfortunately, that would just compound the problem. Now we're going to tell them about this and like make it known to them. Like they shouldn't be hearing it. We shouldn't have to come in and say, sorry about those protesters out there chanting for you to incarcerate this man. Judge says, all right, I may call you back in. Go talk to Mr. Reiser. Let me know. I may call you back. It's now 11:22 in the morning. Prosecutor Daphne Uran has come back into the courtroom. She's walking around whispering into her cell phone. Violate his constitutional rights. I don't care about the Constitution. What do I care? Yeah, do whatever you want. Yeah, do whatever you have to do. I'm a prosecutor. Alvin Bragg said to do it. We're corrupt. We don't care. So she's whispering. Now he goes back out into the hallway. Still no sign of Daniel Penny or his lawyers. A few more minutes go by. It's now 11:26. Now Daniel Penny and his lawyer comes in. Then Judge Wiley through the side door. Come to order. Oh, get off your phone. Get off your phone. Judge says, all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. All right, you saw the jury note, right? We, the jury, have come to a unanimous verdict on count 2. Jury is now entering. Filing in. Everybody standing. You can hear a pin drop. An envelope is being passed down. Your Honor, here's the note. Judge opens the notes, starts opening it up. It says, how do you find on Daniel Penny on count 2? Foreperson stands up and reads, not guilty. Daniel Penny's side of the courtroom starts to applause. Yeah, finally justice. Judge scolds them. Be quiet. Somebody on the Neely side stands up and says, somebody's going to be killed over there. Judge scolds him. Get out. Someone else on the Neely side says, it's a small world, buddy. This is a racist country. Judge gets up and exits the courtroom. And that's the verdict. Brought to us by Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee. Be sure you're following him. I am going to repost this at the very top of our timeline. So you're giving him a follow and supporting his work everywhere. So as we saw, the clerk, how do you find Daniel Penny on count 2? Not guilty. Not guilty. From Penny, from the applause. Be quiet from the Neely side, gonna be killed. Judge says out. From the Neely side, it's a small world, buddy. It's a racist country, right? So that's twice. So not guilty as to Daniel Penny. Not guilty as to all charges. Actually, the first charge was dismissed. So not guilty really only applies to the second count. But that first charge is not coming back, obviously, because it was dismissed after the trial came out, after the trial had already been started and the jury had been impaneled. So jeopardy attaches and they're done. They're not going to be bringing this case back. So Courthouse News also reports, says Daniel Penny was caught on camera last year choking him, as we saw in the trial. There were drugs in his system and he was not dead when they showed up. And the cops themselves didn't even want to touch him. The cops themselves said they wouldn't give him mouth to mouth for a minute because of his possibility of carrying disease and so forth. And he was a homeless man who was neglected and probably very unwell. And it's a sad state of affairs when anybody dies. Don't want anybody dying for any reason unnecessarily before their time. Don't want people who become homeless and are forgotten about and left to suffer and die in our streets. That's not a good thing too. Most of the time, people who prevent that stuff from happening are family members, right? Our government's pretty bad about taking care of homeless people. What normally happens is family takes care of people and other people in extended family jump in to take care of people. But that did not happen here. Now the family is out screaming foul because they lost a loved one, which you can understand, right? Anytime you lose somebody, you have a dead person in your life. It's a sad situation. But now they're demanding recourse and saying that there may even be violence, I guess. Here's one person. Here's what he said.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
Tired.
All right, I don't know what that means exactly. I don't think Jordan Neely was put in a chokehold because he was being loud. I think he was being a threat, and numerous people who were there in the subway that day were defending Jordan Neely, and the cops showed up, didn't even want to touch the guy. So the reaction from their family is also embodied here. I think this is the father. And of course, as we've seen, that often happens in situations like this when there's a homeless person. The question always becomes, well, where were you guys when he was homeless?
BLM had threatened to burn down parts of the city, cars, whatnot. Let's watch. They're angry over Daniel Pitty being found not guilty.
To do it for us. And clearly, if we get to this point, it's too late. We have to be there for each other, and that's our call to action. Everybody that's pissed off at this verdict, I challenge you to go outside today and help one person.
Right on.
That's my challenge. If you're angry, if you're hurt, go help one person.
That's good advice.
That's how we beat the system. That's how we
Helping somebody is beating the system?
turn this around, by being there for each other.
I just want to say,
Okay, I think this is father.
I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. System is rigged. Come on, people.
Sometimes tragedies happen. You do not have to have criminal charges as a result of every tragedy. And I can understand a father who is grieving. And I understand having a family member who is really embroiled in a drug situation. I'm sure many of you do as well. And so it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy anytime you have somebody who becomes homeless, who becomes addicted to drugs, who becomes forgotten about by our society because we're too busy focusing, I don't know, on wars on the other side of the planet because we can't take care of our own people in our own country. So it's a sad state of affairs. No, don't get me wrong. But you don't have to incarcerate somebody who was defending other people against an unwell person. That's not justice in America. So I don't know what they're demanding now. Who knows? Meanwhile, Jordan Penny and his lawyers celebrating a victory, grabbing some drinks out on the town and celebrating not going to prison for a long time because Alvin Bragg and New York prosecutors politicize the entire justice system there. And they go after people to get reelected, not to pursue justice. So a great day for Daniel Penny and his defense attorneys. Cheers, gentlemen, and Godspeed. All right, so that's the Daniel Penny update. Now, let's talk about the FBI because we got some good clips here, man. Trump is fired up. And we're happy about it. Here's a good one from the president. Christopher Wray not sticking around for long. After Trump comes in, he's going to be replacing him. We already know that Kash Patel has been nominated, but for some reason, people like Kristen Welker haven't gotten it through their thick heads that means that Christopher Wray is getting fired. They keep saying things like, oh, he's got a 10-year term, and then it's not over. Well, the truth is, as we've long discussed here, Christopher Wray authorized the raiding of Trump's house and Melania's bedroom and Barron's bedroom. So we're not keeping him around. He needs to go. He needed to go a long time ago. And now Trump is making that known. Now we're going to watch these two clips from the president articulating exactly how bad the FBI is before we jump into this letter from Chuck Grassley, an amazing senator from the great state of Iowa who is lacing in to Christopher Wray in this 11-pager. I'm excited to get to that. And so stick around to see where that goes. But here is the president on with a long interview with Kristen Welker explaining Christopher Wray is going away.
Are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him.
Yeah.
He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk about
So
that,
I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is I certainly cannot be happy with him. You take a look at what's happened. And then when I was shot in the ear, he said, "Oh, maybe it was shrapnel." Where's the shrapnel coming from? Is it coming from heaven? I don't think so. So we need somebody to straighten. I have a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect has gone way down over the last number of years.
Don't you have to fire him in order to make room for Kash Patel if he is, in fact, confirmed?
Well, I mean, it would sort of seem pretty obvious that if Kash gets in, he's going to be taking somebody's place, right? Somebody is the man that you're talking about.
You're going to need to make room for him. So Christopher Wray's going to have to go bye-bye. And you remember that Trump said that they are suing for $100 million, saying that there was political persecution that occurred against him. This is an older story from back in August, but there was a memo they discovered, and we haven't seen this actual lawsuit filed yet. I'm waiting for that. But they said that they intend to sue the Justice Department for the raid, right? Filing a notice of claim. And these things take a lot of time. Anytime you're suing the government, there's a whole process for it. So we're waiting to see some of these documents that come down the pike. And if this changes at all now that he's won, right? He's suing the government for what they've done, but he is now the government. He is now the executive branch. So we'll see. That's an unusual. Now, he still has a claim against the government for violating his rights and raiding his house with an illegitimate prosecutor who was never lawfully appointed. So he should get compensation for that and damages. But now he's the president again. So that also carries with it a lot of benefits. So that was one exchange. Here's another exchange where they're talking about the replacement of Christopher Wray. Kash Patel's coming in.
If they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think he probably has an obligation to do it. But
are you going to direct him to do it?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have two great people there. We have him and we have Pam. And Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you, I thought Kash may be difficult because he's, a strong conservative voice. And I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching, and Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person and very smart and very respected in the party, he's Kash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they work together on the Russia hoax or something. If they think
Trey Gowdy's even on board with Kash Patel. That's interesting. All right. So that is what the president is saying that is changing at the FBI. And now we have Chuck Grassley, who is a United States senator, who is sending this burner letter to FBI Director Wray. Let's see what's inside. All right, Director Wray, this is Chuck Grassley from Iowa speaking. 7 years ago, I presided over your confirmation hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee. We confirmed you. After Trump nominated you to become the 8th FBI director in the 116-year history, the Senate confirmed you and to your current position in hopes you'd bring change to the FBI after the politicization and the scandal presided over by your predecessor, Loser Comey. While I sincerely congratulated you on your nomination, I reminded you that an FBI and their directorship's 10-year term is a ceiling, not a floor, and laid down my expectations for your service. Now, these included, foremost, the prompt and thorough compliance with congressional oversight and the protection of whistleblowers, whom I've spent my entire career defending. And as we stand at the threshold of a new Congress and a new administration with 7 years of watch under the bridge, Chris, you failed in these fundamental duties as director. Even President Biden, who denied weaponizing his administration against President-elect Trump, has finally admitted that political bias has indeed infected law enforcement when he pardoned his crackhead son. These failures are serious enough and their pattern widespread enough to have shattered my confidence in your leadership and the confidence and hope that many others in Congress placed in you. Rather than turn over a new leaf at the FBI, Chris, you've continued to read from the old playbook of weaponization, double standards, and a relentless game of hide and seek with the Congress. As your tenure as FBI director comes to an end, I want to take this opportunity to tell you where you went wrong for the benefit of the Bureau and that of your successor, Kash Patel. And this is being written by Chuck Grassley, senator from Iowa. He says the following. Contrary to the assurances you made to gain confirmation to your position, Chris, the FBI has shown outright disdain for Congress during your tenure. Now, by doing so, you've hindered Congress in the exercise of our duty to do our job. You said that you were going to be appropriately responsive and prompt, but you didn't live up to your word. Promises made, promises broken. That's a recurrent theme for you. One of the most egregious examples of your failure, Chris, is to provide basic information I requested more than 2 years ago related to the FBI's mishandling of harassment claims made by FBI female employees. Wow. This request was not pulled out of a hat, okay? It was based on credible whistleblower disclosures alleging hundreds of FBI employees had retired or resigned to avoid accountability for Bergdorfing and for fanning Waylising each other. Worse than what they did. That was consensual. This is misconduct, not just conduct. Whistleblowers also allege that the FBI had disciplined senior officials less severely than their subordinates. Gross. The FBI is so gross. In November 2022, I released internal FBI documents corroborating this. I and my staff ever since have asked repeatedly for information sufficient to determine how the FBI handled these serious claims and how widespread the problem really is. The FBI is like, well, we're going to go investigate people who attack women and ignore all the people who attack women in our own FBI agency. The FBI told the media it would provide the information to me. You personally told me, Chris, on December 5th, when I confronted you with your inaction on this, that you would check with your team and you would get back to me. You told me to my face. Your deputy director, Paul Abate, also publicly stated that the FBI is serious about removing officials for Bergdorfing each other. After a year since you made that pledge, over 3 years since Abate's public comments, and after many more requests to FBI to provide this information, neither of you have followed up at all. This inexcusable delay and obstruction by you is preventing Congress from addressing the shocking misconduct at the FBI. This is a promise made and broken and one of the utmost importance. Now, likewise, in May and August of 2022, 2 years ago, I wrote you requesting information about the vetting of individuals who were evacuated from Afghanistan during your botched withdrawal. These letters highlighted troubling revelations in a February 2022 report from the Office of Inspector General, which revealed that Afghanistan evacuees weren't vetted against all available DoD tactical data before you paroled them into the country. The report revealed that the National Intelligence flagged at least 50 Afghan evacuees as potentially significant security concerns. The FBI failed entirely to answer my inquiry on this. Instead, in July, you participated in a classified multi-agency briefing to congressional staff on the issue, which revealed new information about additional people beyond the original 50 that you flagged, but you failed to answer any of the questions at all. Then, in August, the Judiciary Committee asked you directly, I asked you specifically, whether the FBI knows where certain flagged evacuees are located. Where are they? Chris, your answer left the impression that you hadn't even looked into the matter. I've asked you multiple times. You said, I can't sit here right now and tell you that we know where all they're located at any given time. I mean, that's probably true. Since that time on October 7th, the FBI arrested Nasir Tawhidi after he allegedly planned an election day terrorist attack on behalf of ISIS. The DOJ's criminal complaint claimed Tawhidi entered in 2021 during the same time period that you brought in people from your botched withdrawal. Welcome. He was placed on parole. You failed to respond to any of those requests as well. Then in May of this year, another report confirmed the concerns that I had about those people you were bringing in. That report outlined various failures at Homeland, including its failure to identify and resolve issues for non-citizens when they've got derogatory information or gaps in their records. The same report also noted that the FBI and their refusal to provide the government with full access to their crime records occurred. The Inspector General also noted the FBI refused to provide access because they said it deems immigration and naturalization issues as non-criminal matters. Okay, so in other words, all this is saying is the FBI has records about whether these people who are coming in are criminal or not. Immigration says, we want to check their criminal record. And they say, well, you're checking their criminal record for immigration purposes. We're not an immigration agency, so we don't give you access to criminal records for immigration purposes. Great. Then Homeland says, we don't have them. Then they just let them in. This position is hard to defend, especially given the fact that, again, as the report noted, parolees were convicted of serious crimes here that the FBI knew about. Abusive contact with young people, indecent exposure, other Bergdorfing assaults, auto grand larceny, assault and battery, and more. Once again, FBI, with you at the helm, you failed to respond to any of this. You let all these people come in, you don't care. At the very beginning of your tenure as the FBI director, I presented you with evidence, Chris, of your failure to investigate Hillary and Hillary's mishandling of highly classified information when she was Secretary of State. Another example of your double standards. And consistent with that failure, the FBI, yet another example of broken promises. You didn't investigate bribery allegations against Joe Biden, and then you strictly scrutinized President Trump. You've repeatedly claimed, Chris, you would ensure the FBI does justice, but that hasn't happened. Under your watch, you had possession of incriminating information against Joe Biden for 3 years until I exposed the existence of the record outlining those allegations, but you did nothing to investigate it. This record, known as an FD 1023, documented allegations of bribery between them and among Joe Biden. And Chuck Grassley has really been a hero on all of this. He broke a lot of stuff. We got the whistleblowers. I think he started to help crack that shell. The FBI confidential human source behind this FD 1023 was on the FBI's payroll during the Obama administration. He was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. The FBI gave that guy permission to violate the law. And information he provided was used in prosecutions. The FBI called this highly credible. And Abate testified, we often redact documents, but then after this document was made public, which didn't even include the source's name, the DOJ not only publicly named him, but they indicted him. They said, oh, you're a criminal now because now we have to smear you. But still to date, the DOJ and the FBI have neither answered whether they investigated the substance of the form, and it sounds like this is a shameful cover-up. Grassley says, as I noted back in February of this year, if a highly regarded source had said that Trump accepted a bribe, the FBI would pursue this information to the end of the earth. They wouldn't have buried it in a closet for 3 years. All right, Chris, actions speak louder than words. And in this regard, the FBI's actions don't just speak, they shout. The FBI has shown itself all too willing to act against President Trump based on sources lacking credibility like those in the Steele dossier. This piece of foreign disinformation was created by Hillary's paid opposition. That partisan source and the failure of the FBI to vet that information didn't stop you guys. You offered it to the FISA court. Hillary got evidence, gave it to the FISA court. The FISA court then spied on Trump. It was all fake. Moreover, because of Johnson, Senator Johnson and Grassley, they exposed the fact that the FBI knew the Steele dossier had credibility problems and may have been part of a Russian disinfo campaign, and they got the warrants anyway to spy on the campaign anyways. Now, my and Senator Johnson's oversight work also exposed the Steele dossier. This is some of the most egregious Orwellian conduct, says Grassley, that I've witnessed in my nearly 50 years in Congress. And the rightful dismissal of Comey should have closed the book on this, but it didn't. You're now doing it, Chris. President Trump has been subjected to a continuing double standard, an area where your failed tenure is consistent with Comey's. While the FBI under your leadership has turned a blind eye to info in that 1023 form, FBI agents, meaning you covered up for Joe while you were protecting him, you raided Trump's home to get records, to get paperwork. You raided his house. In that raid, 30 armed agents entered the home of a former president of the United States with full authorization to use lethal force if they needed to execute its warrant. They could have shot and killed somebody. That's why it was in the document. And they even searched Melania's clothing drawers. They're sick. They went through Melania's underwear, okay? That's not what he didn't write that, but that's what he's saying. Trump's wife's clothing drawers. Sick. This raid occurred despite serious questions about the need for it. President Trump apparently was cooperating with the investigation, notwithstanding liberal press reports. He voluntarily turned over 15 boxes of documents and met with the agents in there. Said, how you guys doing? You want some lemonade? Further, on June 3rd, 2 months before the raid, Jay Bratt, who should be at the top of the list for a criminal investigation, chief of the counterintelligence and export control section, was accompanied by FBI agents, visited Trump. Trump showed up. Jay Bratt was there. He said, hey, good morning, guys. I appreciate the job you're doing. Anything you need, let us know. Bratt later sent a letter to Trump's lawyer, said, why don't you guys put a stronger lock on the door? They did. Following this, Trump also complied with a subpoena for security footage. That was the last action before the FBI executed a search warrant. Now, to be clear, this entire time when the FBI agents were there, they were making their case. They were looking for how to charge him with stuff. Trump invited them in like they were on the same team. They were treating him like a criminal case. No former president has had to endure anything like this. No such raid took place of Hillary's, even though she and her staff mishandled highly classified info while using a non-government server after repeated warnings that it was a security risk. And then they literally deleted evidence and destroyed it. And she was seen mocking it in video clips, like what, with a cloth? Indeed, in an unheard agreement that my oversight exposed, Grassley says, the FBI agreed to destroy records and laptops associated with Clinton's staff after reviewing them, even though those records were responsive to congressional records. So the FBI deleted the Hillary evidence, just like they deleted the Butler shooting evidence when they torched that kid's body. No such raid occurred on the home of Biden, even though his records were consciously divided up, some stored in his garage next to his Corvette. And by the way, Hillary was never president. Biden at the time was vice president. Trump had a higher claim to those documents as the chief executive. More classified records were found by his attorneys, and they had days to go clean them up. And they colluded with the White House. His private attorneys colluded with the White House before they revealed it to the public. This is also despite the fact that the FBI, the White House, took more than 2 months to publicly disclose that they found docs in Biden's house. Grassley says, I warned you after the Mar-a-Lago raid that you risked the credibility of the FBI, and you did just that. A double standard in a nation that rightly claims justice is blind is no standard at all. And so, Chris, the FBI, under your lack of leadership, also served as an accomplice. That's a criminal phrase. For the Democrats' false information campaign designed to undermine my investigation of Biden. You are a co-conspirator. You are accomplice in this crime. On August 6th, Senator Ron Johnson and I were finishing our report on the Biden crime family. You succumbed to pressure from Democrats, and you provided an unnecessary briefing that Democrats requested in an effort to falsely label our investigation into the Bidens as Russian disinformation. That briefing consisted of information we already knew, and information that wasn't even connected to Biden. We made clear at the time that our concern that the briefing would be subject to a leak that would shed false light on the focus of our investigation. And that's exactly what happened. On May 1st, The Washington Post did just that. They came out and they said that what we're doing is Russian disinfo. Ah, yes. At the briefing, and many times following it, we asked you, Chris, for records documenting what happened at the briefing and its intelligence basis. You said, oh, this is Russian, really? And who made the decision to brief us? The FBI has consistently failed to fully respond to these requests. Okay, so just so we're clear, the FBI is yanking senators around like dogs on a chain because they're so dumb and pathetic that the FBI just says, oh, we have to hold a classified briefing. And all the dumb senators are like, oh, we get secret info. They go over there. And Grassley is the only one with any observational skills to say, maybe they're jerking us around by the chain. The FBI has consistently failed to fully respond to these requests. Who even ordered this briefing? Why are we here? They willingly use the briefing for partisan purposes. Congress is asking questions. Just give them a briefing. On what? I don't know. Putin? Whatever. Oh, that's a good one. We haven't talked Putin in a while. To this day, because of the FBI's lack of transparency, we still don't know what the basis was for the briefing and have been prevented from questioning the briefers. Now, if these examples aren't enough to make my point, there are many more to offer, Chris. For more than a year and a half, the FBI has failed to be responsive to repeated requests, again addressed to you, asking for information about the outrageous memo prepared by analysts in the field office in Richmond. That memo struck fear in believers across the country by purporting without anything other than biased, discredited sources like the Southern Poverty Law Center to tie faithful Christians to violent extremism. Shortly after a whistleblower disclosed the notorious memo to the public, I requested the FBI provide answers backed up by records. The FBI, in its paltry response, deflected on the basis that it was conducting an internal investigation into the incident. Little did the FBI leadership know the final strategic review report that was conducted by your division would be produced to Congress by the next year, as the FBI was directed to produce it by the Authorization Act that gives them money. Now, that internal report declared that the report was done on April 17th, the day before the FBI said the report was ongoing. What a bunch of corruption. Oh my gosh. FBI shows up, Congress says, hey, where's your report? Your homework's due. It's due now. Oh, it's ongoing. It's not done? No, it's not done. Turns out it was done. It was finished the day before. The FBI actively misled and obstructed Congress. That's a crime. That's a crime. He's now an accomplice, and he's lying and obstructing Congress. Christopher Wray is a criminal. In the case of the Richmond memo, my oversight continued throughout the remainder of 2023 and has continued since, with my office urging the FBI to provide more information on the memo and the internal review. The FBI waited until late September 2023, which we now know was more than 5 months past the review's completion, to even tell us about the findings. I later led 7 of my colleagues in a letter raising deep concerns on the content of that internal review and your testimony before Congress that the incident in Richmond was one field office and a single product by a single office. Once redactions were lifted from the memo, in a version provided to the House Judiciary Committee, it was apparent the FBI had redacted info from the memo related to the input from the other field offices. So in fact, this wasn't a product of a single office, it was multiple. So you lied again. You later defended your testimony when I confronted you with the contradiction by saying the input from the other offices was limited to verifying a couple sentences. So they didn't actually work on it. It was just like a sentence or two. Well, nonetheless, you failed in that exchange to answer why the FBI redacted info and whether you had reviewed any of this. And you should know those things when you're testifying about this topic. But even more troubling, Chris, was your testimony that this was a single product. Congress later discovered this claim was false and materially misleading, lie, And neither you nor the FBI to this date has answered my request to explain your testimony. The FBI later revealed the existence of an external memo to me in a single line in its 1027 response with no explanation at all. According to the staff present at the briefing, the FBI withheld information about this memo. A later House report confirmed the second product was also drafted by analysts and was reviewed and planned for dissemination. Based on the revelation that the memo was not a solitary product, I led 15 colleagues in yet another appeal. But rather than come clean, you at the FBI waited nearly 7 more months to respond until August. And after I confronted you on portions of that, finally we got to it. The FBI's embarrassing August 2024 response failed to answer any points that I raised, and you ignored my request. And to this day, still hasn't happened. You failed to clear up your testimony, even after being questioned by many members of the Senate, a state of affairs completely unacceptable from one of the nation's premier law enforcement agencies. The FBI's response also ignored the request of 16 senators for additional info related to the permanent deletion of files related to the memo, which was ordered by your deputy director. In a call my staff had with the FBI, officials assured us that these files are recoverable and that they could be provided, but she hasn't done it. The continuous mule-headed war against transparency violates your oath. Now, while your failure to fulfill your duty regarding multiple examples is sufficient reason to question your tenure, your broken promise to protect whistleblowers and to be transparent is the final straw on the camel's back, Chris. And what we're seeing here is multiple layers of stuff. I mean, he's blasting him politically. I think he's laying down a foundation for having his tenure terminated so President Trump can come in and just nuke him. You're done. Look at this. Look at all this stuff. He's also laying down a theory and thesis for criminal prosecution. Okay, this is like an affidavit that's being submitted by a person who was a victim of a crime, which in this case is a senator, who's been being misled by another government official. The FBI's silence in response to my request is completely unacceptable. As I said, you promised at your confirmation hearing to do so. Protecting these brave patriots has been a priority of mine for 50 years. But my pleas to you on their behalf, just like many other oversight requests, have fallen on deaf ears. On July 18th of last year, nearly 17 months ago, I led 22 of my colleagues in a letter asking you to commit that no taxpayer money would be used to retaliate against whistleblowers. You pledged to protect them, but you failed to commit to even this basic thing. Shouldn't even be controversial. But you failed to even reply. Now, likewise, on September 13th last year, 15 months ago, I asked you to provide records on information about safeguards in place to protect whistleblower communications. Again, my simple request was greeted with deafening silence. Reagan often said we should trust but verify. I employ that same policy. When I ask the FBI for documents, it's to determine whether or not what's being said is verifiable. Those documents are worth more than mere assurances because contemporary records paint an unmistakable and undeniable picture. The FBI here, as in so many instances, has failed to provide documents I've reasonably requested to verify your own claims. Scripture tells us that one who can't be trusted in little matters can't be trusted in larger ones. You failed both. You've also failed to adequately respond to my questions about protecting whistleblowers. One example, I wrote to you back November 2018 about the raid of a whistleblower's home relating to uranium-1. You took nearly 2.5 years to give me a 118-word response. That response didn't give us any information, but your bland assertions makes our job harder. And again in 2019, I asked about Special Agent John Parkinson, who initially made disclosures in 2008, lost his security clearance. And your response is not addressing those either. So I've given quite a few examples here, you're right. But other examples of blatant failures abound. The FBI for years has failed to update me on the status of criminal referrals that I've made to them. Even Brett Kavanaugh, it's failed for over 2 years to answer my inquiries into people like Mark Houck, the pro-life activist. and the raid of him. You haven't answered any questions about Project Thor, a successful ATF anti-cartel program. Failed to respond about a man who threatened Judge Eileen Cannon, the Florida classified documents judge. Nothing about Obama's State Department. Failed to answer my letter from the DOJ about the DOJ. Failed to update me on the status of a criminal referral I made to the FBI. Failed for over a year and a half. I also wanted to know about your private FBI jet, about you flying around on it so you don't have to sit in traffic. Where's that? You have failed for 6 years to give me any information about the shooting of an unarmed man sitting in his car. Tons of questions. The list goes on and on. All right, Chris, I asked you a lot of stuff. And shout out to Chuck Grassley for trying to investigate this stuff. Okay, he's like a senator. This is his job. He's in Iowa. He's working his booty off. Like, let me ask, let me check, let me look into this. I don't know. Is that corrupt or not? Let me see what the FBI has to say. They don't care. They're too busy creating Russia collusion hoaxes. Your and Deputy Director Abate's failures to take control of the FBI has hindered my work and others throughout multiple Congresses on matters that needed info, has prevented the truth on some issues from ever reaching the American people. You've also shown a continuing double standard and a failure to carry through on promises. And so for the good of the country, it's time for you and your deputy to move on to the next chapter in your lives. Get out. I've spent my career fighting for transparency, and I've always called out those in government who have fought against it. For the public record, I must do so once again now. I therefore must express my vote of no confidence in your continued leadership of the FBI. President-elect Trump has already announced his intention to nominate a candidate to replace you, and the Senate will carefully consider that choice. For my part, I've also seen enough and hope your respective successors will learn from these failures. Chuck Grassley's not happy about him, nor should he be. This is not how the country should work, by the way. Our senators should be able to get an answer from the FBI. There's only 100 of them. How much money does the Senate approve for the FBI in their budgets every year? All of it. The answer is all of it. So does the House. When they pass a Senate and a budget and it goes to the president every year, FBI gets what they want. Maybe they shouldn't get what they want. Congress has the power of the purse. Maybe they should use it. And Christopher Wray can sit in traffic like the rest of us. No more private planes for them. So the answer here, I think, is going to come from a new appointment named Kash Patel, who is going to be making his way into the FBI building, and we're looking forward to that. Now, before we hear from you, this is an interesting clip that kind of left me irritated and disgusted at the same time. But watch this. The J13 Butler investigation, the joint committee that was convened to get to the bottom of what happened with Thomas Matthew Crooks and the shooting that took place there in Pennsylvania, has now wrapped up. And do we have any answers? No, we don't, of course. And I want to play this clip without the audio on. And this is an interview with Face the Nation. And what Face the Nation is saying is that Jason Crow is explaining to us how the FBI and the Justice Department, just like they stonewalled Chuck Grassley, are stonewalling the Democrats and their agency or their investigation. But I don't get the hint that they're all that interested in getting to the bottom of this. And if you just play this without the audio, it looks like these two are kind of just having a fun time, right? They're just joking about the assassin. Like, what is this? What is this? And when they ask the question, she kind of calls him out on it. It's like, well, I think you're going to be frustrated because you guys haven't produced anything useful or meaningful. But they'll sit here and they'll talk to us about that, right? So what we're going to hear is his finger pointing. He'll have a good explanation for this about why they don't have anything, but it's because the FBI and the DOJ haven't given them anything. It's like, okay, you're Congress. So what are you going to do about it? Answer nothing. And the Democratic Party has not been willing to join in the Republicans. Like, you guys can join in on the Republicans and help Chuck Grassley make Christopher Wray come in and bend the knee. You can help, but for some reason, you don't want to do that. Why is that? And it's because they just like to pretend they're doing stuff. It's bureaucracy at its finest. Oh, we really couldn't get to the bottom of it. Well, then you're not done. The job's not done. Go get the answers. Here's this guy.
You, Congressman Crow, seem very frustrated based on the report and hearing.
Do I seem frustrated?
That
No,
you-
I know you're very.
Well, with the fact that you could
You
find
don't.
out more
You don't seem
about the
frustrated.
shooter, both in Butler and in the potential shooter in Mar-a-Lago.
That's actually a really important element to the story, and people have rightful questions about it. I have questions about it, and that is, why did the shooter do this? What drove him to do it? Was he a lone wolf shooter? Did he have associates or affiliates? What was his motivation? How was he radicalized? We endeavored to get
Great questions. Do you have any answers to any of it?
answers to those questions. We submitted numerous requests to the Department of Justice and FBI. Their response is, this is an ongoing criminal investigation, and we can't give that information to Congress.
No, so you don't.
That, in my view, is an unacceptable position, and here's why.
For both Butler and Mar-a-Lago, that was
Correct.
the answer.
That's right. And here's why that's unacceptable. I sit on the Intelligence Committee, I've sat on the Armed Services Committee, and Congress all the time gets access to our nation's most sensitive secrets.
Yep.
Ongoing operations, intelligence operations, military operations. You can't tell me that there isn't a way to put us into a secure facility and get us information about an ongoing criminal
Yeah, there is.
investigation when I regularly am receiving briefs on
Ukraine.
what our
Ukraine.
spies and our military special operators are doing regularly around the world. So none of this.
Yeah, because they want you, they throw you those little stupid briefings. So you're like, wow, we have to give more money to Ukraine or whatever. And they don't actually give them anything meaningful. They're just little pawns being passed around in Congress.
Stands to reason, and we have dedicated ourselves to continue to get those answers. And if the FBI and DOJ thinks that they can wait us out and stonewall us, they are wrong.
You think they're intentionally withholding information?
I don't know what their intention is. I'm not a mind reader.
Yeah, you can admit it. They are intentionally holding information. If you can't even come out and admit that.
But, you know, I've been around Congress long enough to know what people do when you get stonewalled. I mean, listen, this is not uncommon. No. When you're dealing with agencies and departments, it's a pretty regular method, and it's something that, you know, we encounter all the time in our oversight responsibility.
There's something about their body language and how they're kind of just like kind of smirking and smiling at each other that just rubs me the wrong way. To me, it feels like they're talking about like this is a regular like budgetary concern over some insignificant agriculture bill or something. This is an assassination attempt. There's a dead man and other people got shot. It's not routine. It's not like, well, if they're not going to give us this, we've been around Congress for a long time. Okay, that's great. That's fine. This is not a regular type of budgetary concern. Yeah, maybe the FBI does drag their feet and DOJ, all of it is government. Okay, that's fine. This is not that. And how they're just like, oh, you know how it is out there. You know how it is. It's like two buddies, like after a sports game, you come off like, man, that was crazy out there, right? Great, I know how it is. That guy's always doing that thing. They kind of, ridiculous. Well, see you next week. Like it's insignificant. This is a cover-up that's happening right now. These guys were put in charge to go find the cover-up, and now he's going to talk big like they're going to wait out the DOJ and the FBI? No.
So we don't know, or tell me if perhaps you know the
We're-
answers.
we're
Was
in-
there a foreign nexus? Do we know yes or no?
Americans are deluged with misinformation and disinformation that's coming from a variety of sources. And conspiracy theories sometimes take root when there's a lack of information or there's conflicting information. So our job is to try to get information out there, to be transparent, to be accessible, to tell the real story. And that's why this is important. This element of that story is important because there's a lot of conspiracies around these shootings, right? And we take that seriously.
Right?
We want to, rebuff those. But, in this case, and I sit on a lot of other committees with access to information, I have seen no evidence that a state actor, an adversary, was responsible for either of these attempted assassination attempts. I have seen no evidence. But, when you're in a position...
Have you seen evidence in a category that would allow you to make a determination on that question? I have seen no evidence. Okay, well, have you seen any evidence at all? Because it doesn't sound like you have. So what he's saying, I think what he's saying, honestly, is not that I've seen no evidence of foreign interference or foreign state actors. It's that he's seen no evidence at all. More likely. So he couldn't make a determination on that because he doesn't see anything.
Where, the government says, well, it's not this, but we won't tell you what it is. right? And we can't tell you definitively. Well, people respond and have questions about that, and I understand that mentality. So even though we don't have evidence of one thing, people still want to know what else it is, and I still want to know what else it is.
Did he act alone? Do we know that?
We don't know that.
Or Congress doesn't know that?
Yeah, and it's one thing to say, and I'm going to be really clear about this, because this is very, very sensitive territory, because we want to make sure we're not, getting people spun up unnecessarily.
Yeah.
There is no evidence from other sources, internal government sources, from our investigation, that others were involved, that he acted with others, and that a foreign state or adversary was involved in this. But that still raises the question of, why did he do this? Was he just a disturbed young man who decided to take action alone? Probably. I mean, that's probably the answer.
It looks like now. Yeah.
Right? That's what it looks like. Yeah. But we need to know, right? And let's get the information out there that the government has to make sure that we can settle this. And that's our obligation.
Okay, so that was a propaganda piece, brought out by both those guys. You guys got to go talk out to the media and just say you have no evidence of anything. It's over. The cover-up is underway. The more I see this, the more my gut instinct tells me the FBI, somebody knows a lot more. They probably tried to shoot him. So, all right, that's what we've got. FBI is not releasing any records. The committee, that guy was a ranking member on the committee who was supposed to go in and give us some answers. That's what we got out of this whole thing. Any answers? No. Why? They're not giving you records. Okay. Have you seen any evidence? I have seen no evidence. Great job. All right. We need President Trump to come in here and investigate the real truth of this. We'll see how much evidence they put in the shredder between now and then, but we'll get to the bottom of it. Even this guy's looking up. He's like, man, I can't even take this. What a scam. All right. It's a beautiful day, my friends. Let's see what you say about all of this and more. If you're just joining us, we had 3 good stories and good topics on the day. We talked about what is happening with the CEO slayer, this new individual called Luigi Mangione, who has now been arrested for a gun charge. We'll see what the latest is on him. We covered what the news was saying about him and some more. Then we talked about Daniel Penny, went through the not guilty verdict that we read through here. And it was a good one, courtesy of our friend Inner City Press. And then lastly, we wrapped up with the FBI. Trump says Director Wray is going bye-bye, and it couldn't come soon enough. Chuck Grassley with an 11-page banger explaining how corrupt the FBI is, especially under Christopher Wray's tenure. And now, my friends, it's time to hear from you, and we'll see what you have to say about it. It's a beautiful Monday. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for inviting friends or family to come over here and join us as we go through some of this stuff. I hope your week is unfolding nicely. Let's see who is here. I saw some great donos and some great comments, and I'm really grateful for those. Who do we have? Oh, this was here from, I think, from last week. Sweet Potato, what's up, Sweet? Says, please keep full sass presenting. We were having a little conversation on Locals about sass, whether I should, calm it down a little bit or what, and some of the comments and feedback. So that was fun. Thank you, Sweet. Thanks for the dono. Hey, here's one. Monday Mood. It's R2D2. Yeah, I got a little, as you can hear in my nasal tubes are a little bit clogged. The internet tubes get clogged. Today, my nasal tubes are a little bit clogged. Some of the head tubes are a little clogged. What's up, Crash? Rob, I remind us all again to remember Richard Jewell, the wrongly accused Centennial Olympic Park bomber of 1996. Our government, through its law enforcement agencies, is quite capable of being wrong. No doubt about that. Thank you, Crash. This one from Angel. Here is some very interesting information that ties in with Nancy Pelosi and her inside stock trading with his company, making millions of dollars, possibly an inside job by Nancy. I don't know. Nancy is involved in a lot of problems, no doubt. Thank you, Angel. Former says, just ask any law enforcement officer, because the consensus is that we only catch the dumb criminals, and we are so busy catching the dumb ones, we have no time for the smart ones. Thank you for that one, former LEO. So are you saying, which one is this guy, Luigi? Is he a dumb or a smart one? I don't know. Knox says, happy Monday, all. Apparently, United Healthcare was at the forefront of the whole COVID Medicare reimbursement program that forced ventilators, paid more for COVID deaths, wouldn't pay for any drugs other than remdesivir, etc., etc. Linking over here to Insurance News Net. Yeah, look, you're not going to find any love for the health insurance companies. They made billions off of all of us, and there were no repercussions for it at all. So you're not going to find love for me on that. Now, simultaneously, we also have to have due process and a presumption of innocence in this country. What's up, Knox? Thanks for that. Another one from Knox. PI Online, pension funds. United Health Group sued pension funds and securities fraud insider trading. Yeah, I'm sure they're caught in a lot of hot stuff. ELF in the house. What's up, Elf? It's a beautiful emoji, especially for this time of year. Elf bringing in 20 new membos. Look who's coming in. Google is here. The whole company? Amazing. DJ Dogstar, Tommaso Patrich. We got that girl. Welcome. Chris Moore. Savvy has an open slot. Clinton Griffin. Ike's girl is here. Lamb Chop. WVU Mountaineer Lair with Kenny. What's up? What's up, Spuds? Darren shouting out Elf. Sully Bach, Tony Hogan. We got Let's Talk About It is here. We have Brian Atkins, Brian Stevens, Eagle 80, the Bobby Bishop Show. What's up, Bobby? Venturecast, Willa, and Carl Stenbeck in the house. K-Bean shouting out ELF in the house. Elf bringing in the membos. Hey, Flea Speech says, Marine too much for brag. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Marine too much for brag. He couldn't take it. Da Hook is here. Says, what is this? Who just bought a 6'5" animatronic Buddy the Elf? This guy. My wife hates him. The kids love him. He's perfect. And look at the pup. The pup's like, who is this new friend? Oh, that's great. Da Hook. Hey, good for you. Your wife will warm up to him. Yeah. Is it because he's so tall? No, he's huge. 6'5". That's hilarious. Wife can't stand it. She'll warm up to him. She probably just a little freaked out, as you would be. 6'5" dude standing out there. Like, is there someone outside? I think there's someone outside. No, honey, it's just the elf. Don't worry about it. Even the dog's like, oh man, are we going for a walk soon with this dude? What's going on? All right, that's fun. Shout out. Merry Christmas, my friend. It's fun. Rick D. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't making threats of physical violence to coerce someone to give you what you want considered strong-arm robbery in many states? Yeah, I mean, it would depend, I think, depend on the context. Like if you're like standing over somebody and you're like, give me your money or I'll break your arm, something like that. Sure. I don't think what we saw on the streets there from those protesters actually rose to that, but you could say it maybe breaks the, it's imminent incitement to lawless action. Maybe it breaks the Brandenburg Standard and is incitement to violence. Maybe it's not free speech, not protected free speech, maybe. Object Class Keeter says, I find it ironic that the areas that have a lot of racism and oppression issues and the need to break the system are in deep blue areas and states. Yeah, I think it's going to be curious to see. I mean, I think I've seen both sides on this guy's political spectrum. People saying he's a right guy and people saying he's a left guy. And I don't know either way on that. But yeah, the shooting happened in New York, and I don't know how he got a gun and brought a gun in there. Don't they ban guns in New York? NY says, I left New York right before de Blasio. Under Bloomberg, the subways started to revert to the cesspool that they are now. People like Neely plagued New York City. He didn't need to die. No, he didn't. Interesting, his supporters show up after his death, but allowed him to terrorize the streets for years. Neely was infamous. Yeah, it's interesting. Like they'll come out when there's a settlement to be made. But for most of his life, they just throw him on the streets. Great. MT Corner says, I live, I share, I subscribe, and I love. That should be on a t-shirt, man. I want to be like, one of those people that just wears that and puts that everywhere. Like, those people who have like those sayings all over the place. You walk into their place, you're like, wow, there's a lot of phrases on the wall. That's a lot of phrases. Wow. And it's usually live, life, love, something, right? Live, share, subscribe. Be like one of those people. Yeah, it's perfect. Maybe I'll become one. Ines Fod. Just kidding. Ines Fod, what's up? Welcome. New supporter. Great to have you. Hey, Esther says Penny took a life while protecting others. That's hard to live with. Yeah, it's tough, man. Like Penny, yeah, it's a tough thing, right? It's a tough thing to have to live with. And what he's gone through is not easy. And it's not good. It's a tragedy. Anytime something like this happens, it's bad for everything. Like there's really no victory. Hey, it's the Munkets is here. What's up? Jason Worth coming in as a membo. Karen Barrows. We got Kiana Shaw is here. Sane Millennial. At least we got one. Carol Marine Mom in the house. What's up, Carol Marine Mom? Shout out to your son or daughter in the house. Or both maybe. Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay. NY says, seems like Liz Cheney has threatened any lawyer who investigates the J6 committee with sanctions. Okay. Okay, Liz. Good luck. Local Enterprise says, I know it's a late comment. I don't believe they have the right guy. And if they did, he would be charged with the killing. He's charged with a firearms thing. Yeah, I mean, they came up with something to hold him. Donut, don't mind me, says, as a counterpoint, police often will charge enough to jail someone waiting for confirmation, in this case, ballistics confirmation, right? Or DNA evidence. They also said that they found that water bottle. This is a weird case because that water bottle, I saw the video of the water bottle, right? And I think they just like placed the water bottle down. He's like, here, come pick this up. It's weird. The whole case is weird. I want to see video too. I want to see, because we saw the shooter move on video during the shooting. I want to see video of this other guy moving because you can tell movements. You can tell if it's the same guy by how they move. So we'll see him, right? Walking into court, walking around. I think that will show us a lot more because we got to see how he moved and how he carried himself and how he stood. He took a step forward, took another step forward, got on the bike and rode away. I want to see this guy who got arrested at McDonald's moving. Let me see. All right, what's up? Sheila Pooh. 1 million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for becoming a new supporter. And also, Sheila, thanks for being a supporter for 10 months. Sheila, do you have 2 accounts? You must have 2 accounts under the same name. What is going on here? I don't know. Either way, Sheila, we love you. I know you're a supporter. You're here all the time, and we love you for being here for 10 months. I think it's longer than that, but I have seen no evidence because I wasn't looking. Exactly. I've seen no evidence of anything because they haven't shown us any evidence. Convenient. Glocky says, Manchin and another senator just dropped a bill to impose term limits on SCOTUS, but not Congress, and I fully expect this to gain momentum. This might be why the Democrats and their end game on the way out the door. Yeah, but that's going to require a constitutional amendment. So I don't know how that's going to happen. Biden should issue a blanket pardon of undocumented immigrants is another concept. Oh my gosh. Crash says, the Face the Nation interview is peremptory. Dems will be holding the short stick, Oval Office, Senate, and House. They are setting the stage to oppose everything, legislative or presidential, that Trump will do. The carping is beginning early. Woodchip Bill says, what I find so upsetting is that the Senate approved all these junk people for the current secretaries of the cabinet, but balk at the Trump appointments when the folks holding those positions wouldn't make a pimple on Trump's appointments back ends. Yeah. It's a colorful metaphor, which is true. Rick Donner says, I was thinking more of Neely on the subway, not the press conference. And Rick D, having trouble remembering what that is in response to, but thank you, Rick, for that one. Zinc Orby says, please check out Orange County. They're stealing the house. I saw that. I think Jim Hoff had a post on that, right? Yeah, he found some new post or something. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Lady Ice is sharing an interesting image. Let me see what this one is. Thank you, Lady Ice, for that one, for the dono. This one says Congress to FBI. There. Glocky says, here's the mugshot has been released. Is this a mugshot of the dude? Interesting. All right, so put a mask over there. That the mugshot that's just come out? Very curious indeed. My friends, thank you for those great donos, for those great responses, for those great comments. Let's say hello to X. Is that the new photo. Here are some comments on X. We have some people watching over there. Here's one. Paul Mino, all for one. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Penny does have that nice physiognomy, right? That nice physiognomy, kind of that Greek statue physiognomy. Yeah, he's a handsome man. He's a handsome man. All right, so let's see what else we got over on X. Danny McWilliams. We got B. Torn, Fred Petamonte. What's up? Hey, Mini Tika. Thanks for sharing the sharing the link. Mini Tika in the house. Shake says, it's been a while since I saw All Rise for a Judge. By the way, you did an awesome job reading through Inner City Press. Makes me laugh. Thank you for that, Shakes. That's a fun one. Yeah, I like doing the reads. We appreciate Inner City Press. James Pepper says, so the suspect was not Stephen Colbert. No. And Ted Kaczynski says, Fred says, yeah, he had a mind of 167 IQ. Wow. And B. Torn says, no FBI director has ever had a law enforcement background except for temporary position holders. Great comments over on X, my friends. Thanks for sending those in. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for sending those. We are going to wrap it up here on the evening. We'll unplug here for the night. We're going to go over to locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to have a members-only after party. We're going to debrief and hang tight for a little bit and say hello to our friends. Otherwise, my friends, we're going to be here tomorrow to get into it again. I want to say thank you to the mods. What's up to K Bean, Donut, Carrie B helping this morning. I appreciate everybody sending those in. Uncle Bozy says, not just the FBI admin, that is bad. As a cop, I had always considered them to be the best of the best. I was disillusioned, to put it mildly. Sure, there are outstanding agents, but many field agents are total buffoons. During the search for Eric Rudolph, the actual Atlanta Olympics bomber, the FBI showed up in Western North Carolina and immediately insulted local law enforcement. I think the big problem is that many agents buy into their own propaganda. And Kareem says, it does look suspicious how they found the CEO assassin. In America, no innocent individual should be thrown in jail just so they can, quote, get the guy. Yeah, and end it. It is very convenient, right? You call it an orgy of evidence. And that phrase comes from, I think, Minority Report with Tom Cruise. An orgy of evidence. Like you show up and all the evidence is just there having intercourse with itself. You're like, this is weird. How did it all get here? And in that movie Minority Report, remember they walk in and all the evidence, like all the photos are on the bed of the guy who did the thing. You're like, wow, that's very convenient. Someone calls this dude in. He's got a manifesto and a gun and like a computer and all the things. Like I shot it. It's like, wow, that's very convenient. So I think it's right to ask a question about that. How did that happen? Yeah. Kareem, thank you for that. Hey, Lady I says, reminds me, and if he's the guy who did it, then there you go. Just got all the evidence right there. And it's easy peasy. Reminds me of Comey when the reporter asked him how Lieutenant General Flynn could have ended up alone with 2 FBI agents that wanted to investigate and interview him. And he says, well, because I sent them. Shane Salsa, what's up? Says, hey, K Bean, 6 months. I had to. At K Bean had to. Heart, heart, heart. Elvis, sunglass face, peace, love flag. K Bean, he had to. So it happened. Hey, Lady Ice, the meme I sent was a sheepdog and Wile E. Coyote who are mortal enemies during the workday, but just check in and out like there is nothing to see here. Oh, I got it, Lady Ice. Yeah, that's deep. It would have taken me like a century to figure out the meaning of that. So thanks for explaining it for us. A little thick here today. All right, so thank you, my friends, for sending those in. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Then we're coming back tomorrow. And we're going to get into it again. Yeah, orgy of evidence was like the FBI top secret documents photos. Exactly right. In Mar-a-Lago. That's exactly the same thing. Oh my gosh, look at all these nuclear secrets that Trump has. Yeah, right. You mean the ones you dumped on the floor and put cover sheets over? Yeah, exactly. All right, my friends. It has been a beautiful day and a beautiful stream. Mods, thank you so much for modding the fort down for us. We are going to go over to locals to debrief and have our after party. Otherwise, my friends, we're coming back here tomorrow and we're going to get into it again. But in order to do that properly, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. Take your vitamin C. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.